Be careful not to knock anything over, dear. That glass is worth more than his monthly salary, whispered the platinum-haired woman as Kesha poured champagne at the head table of the Metropolitan Hotel in Manhattan. The high-pitched laughter echoed among the guests. The kind of laughter that cuts to the soul because it assumes you're too small to matter. Kesha was 25 years old, worked 3 jobs to support her 4-year-old daughter, and her simple appearance, basic black uniform, curly hair pulled back into a discreet bun, made her practically invisible to those people. The ballroom sparkled with baccarat crystal and Italian marble, every detail screaming wealth. The center table held the $8 billion merger agreement that dominated the evening's conversation. Richard Whitmore, the billionaire host, presided over the table with the authority of someone who never had to prove his worth. Around him, executives, shareholders, and lawyers celebrated what would be the biggest deal of the year in the technology sector. Kesha was just a waitress there to serve drinks and disappear. But when her eyes caught a specific clause in the contract, she froze. She approached his side, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Whitmore, don't sign that." What happened next left the entire room in absolute silence. The room went still as her words lingered in the air. Every head at the grand table turned toward her, their eyes sharp with disbelief, some amused, others annoyed that a server would dare interrupt. The glitter of diamonds on expensive gowns caught the chandelier light, but Kesha felt only the weight of their stares pressing against her. She wasn't supposed to be seen, let alone heard. Whitmore leaned back in his chair, adjusting the cuff of his tailored suit, his expression unreadable. The laughter broke the silence, soft at first, then growing like a chorus. What did she say? A woman in a red dress whispered loudly enough for half the room to hear. "She thinks she knows better than our lawyers." Another voice joined, mocking. "She should be in the kitchen, not near billion-dollar contracts." Kesha stood still, tray balanced effortlessly in her hand, eyes fixed on the contract that lay open on the table. She remembered her father's voice from years ago, echoing in her mind. "They hide the traps in the details, daughter. Never skim the middle of the page. That's where they bury the poison." Her pulse quickened. She wasn't imagining this. She knew exactly what she had seen. A shareholder with gold-rimmed glasses leaned forward, irritation creasing her forehead. "I'm sure I didn't just hear a waitress commenting on a legal document." More laughter erupted, cruel and dismissive. Kesha let their words wash over her. She had grown used to being underestimated, even ridiculed. She had endured it in classrooms, in offices, on sidewalks where people brushed past her as though she didn't exist. But this was bigger. She moved quietly, setting a crystal glass back on the table. Her eyes flicked again toward the line of text buried in the contract. Transfer of all parent company assets within 30 days. It was a dagger disguised as legal jargon. And if Whitmore signed, the company would be gutted. Her father's memory rose vividly before her. Professor Marcus Johnson, seated at his desk in their small Bronx apartment, papers scattered everywhere, his glasses sliding down his nose as he warned her about clauses like these. "They sound harmless, Kesha, but they can bring down empires. Remember this, powerful people always believe no one is watching. That's when they make mistakes." She took a deep breath and repeated, louder this time, "Mr. Whitmore, don't sign that contract." The laughter turned sharp, echoing through the ballroom. A lawyer with slicked-back hair leaned in, sneering. "And what qualifies you to give legal advice? Did you learn corporate law while carrying trace?" A man with a gold chain muttered under his breath, "She probably can't even spell half the words in that contract." Her boss, the hotel manager, hurried to her side, panic in his eyes. "Kesha, please, this isn't your place. You'll lose your job." But she didn't look at him. Her gaze was locked on Whitmore. "It transfers everything," she said firmly, pointing at the page. "Your assets, your subsidiaries, even your personal stakes. It's a full reverse transfer clause." Silence. Genuine silence. The kind that makes every breath in the room sound loud. A shareholder snatched the contract, flipping through the pages with trembling fingers. Her eyes widened. "She's right," she whispered, voice nearly lost under the chandelier's hum. "It's all there." The room rippled with shock. Another lawyer seized the papers, scanning furiously, his expression growing more unsettled by the second. The guests' laughter faltered into confusion. For the first time that night, the people in gowns and suits actually looked at Kesha, not as a server, but as someone who knew something they didn't. Whitmore's gaze sharpened, his calm mask cracking. "Explain," he demanded. Kesha's throat tightened, but her voice remained steady. "If you sign, within 30 days, ownership shifts. Everything you built becomes theirs. It's disguised as a merger, but it's a takeover." The lead attorney slammed the table. "Absurd. Weeks of review have gone into this contract. You're wasting everyone's time." But Whitmore wasn't listening to him anymore. He studied Kesha with an intensity that unsettled the entire table. "How did you notice it?" "My father," she said softly. "He taught me to look for traps like these." Gasps broke the silence. Someone in the back muttered, "Her father?" As though it were impossible that a waitress could have ever been raised by someone of importance. Her boss grabbed her arm, hissing, "Enough. You're finished here." But before she could be dragged away, Whitmore raised a hand. "No, let her speak." The room froze. Kesha's fingers tightened around the tray. "I grew up with this," she said. "I studied every case my father left behind. I've seen families lose everything because of one line buried in pages of lies. And I won't let you lose everything tonight." Murmurs spread across the room, some skeptical, others unnerved. The woman in the red dress rolled her eyes. "This is ridiculous. Are we truly taking a maid seriously?" But Whitmore didn't laugh. His expression hardened as he flipped further into the contract. His jaw clenched. "She's right," he said finally. The ballroom erupted. Shareholders shouted. Lawyers demanded explanations. Executives tried to cover their panic with denial. But Whitmore's eyes never left Kesha. For the first time, he saw her, not as a waitress, not as a shadow at the edge of his world, but as someone who had just saved him. Yet Kesha knew it wasn't over. What she had uncovered wasn't just a bad deal, it was deliberate. And the people behind it wouldn't walk away quietly. By the time Professor Williams walked into the ballroom, briefcase in hand and fire in his eyes, the storm had already begun. Documents were spread across the table, voices raised, panic building. Williams greeted Kesha with quiet respect, then turned to the billionaire. "She's right. And if you had signed, your empire would have been stripped bare within weeks. This isn't just a merger, Mr. Whitmore. It's a criminal operation." The revelation hit like thunder. Federal agents arrived minutes later, storming the ballroom and placing the orchestrators in handcuffs. Henderson, the deal's smooth-talking representative, sputtered with rage, pointing at Kesha as he was dragged away. "This isn't over. You have no idea what you've done." But Kesha did know. She had not only saved Whitmore's empire, but helped expose a laundering network that stretched across countries. And she had done it not with wealth, not with power, but with knowledge, and the courage to speak when silence would have been safer. Months later, Kesha walked the marble floors of Whitmore Industries not as a server, but as director of compliance. She created a program for young interns from neighborhoods like hers, teaching them how to read contracts, how to detect fraud, how to never again be underestimated. Her daughter, Brooklyn, thrived in a school where she was judged not by where she came from, but by what she could achieve. The people who once mocked her names and laughed at her uniform never saw her coming. They had looked at her and seen only a server. But she had been far more. She had been the storm they never expected. And as she stood in her corner office, Manhattan glittering beyond the glass, Kesha touched the framed photograph of her father on her desk and whispered, "We did it." Her story wasn't just about survival. It was about rewriting the rules in a world that tried to write her off. So the next time someone underestimates you, remember Kesha Johnson, the waitress who saved an empire. Have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked or where you came from? Share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories of people who turn prejudice into purpose.